Hi, Ian Roberts, and welcome to Mastering Composition and the laboratory of our painting process. A number of viewers asked me to talk more about foreground, middle ground, and background, and I just needed to get more time to get some really good examples of their interplay, but it's important, and I'll certainly do an episode on that soon. But this morning I participated in a summit on authenticity and decided today I wanted to talk about vision and skill and the balance we need to have of them together. Focus too much on vision and you can't communicate what you have in mind. Focus too much on skill and the vision can go dry. So that you wouldn't say Durer or Vermeer, both painters with high degrees of skill, were going dry. They don't necessitate that. But I wanted to show you a series of images from around the end of the 19th century where it had. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But then there's also the rush of vision, or an idea that isn't supported by skill. And there are, in fact, contemporary art critics today who call whole arenas of contemporary art post-skill, and not ironically. But I'm not going to show examples of that because honestly, first off, it doesn't interest me that much. And secondly, there often isn't really anything to actually look at. It's more of an idea. But let me get back to those paintings I was just mentioning. They come from a book I found in an estate sale, and it's called Famous Paintings of the World. 100, and this is great, 100 of the most notable paintings exemplifying the most attractive, interesting, pure, and inspiring qualities of contemporaneous art, meaning art altogether. The book was printed in 1894, so it's all black and whites before color printing. And considering that the great paintings of the world, they were shown, assembled for the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Now keep in mind that Impressionism had been around now for 30 years, and people had laughed at how unfinished the Impressionist paintings were 20 years before this. And then I wanted to show some paintings that weren't caught up completely in skill, but were an interesting balance of vision and skill. Enough of one to enhance the other. And so I was looking around and I found one by Fairfield Porter that I thought was interesting and one by Diebenkorn. And then I had a thought, I should show a series of my students' landscapes from plein air painting workshops. They're all done plein air in one sitting, and I photographed them at the end of the workshop. But it's really interesting because it's student work and it shows a very interesting, I think, balance between vision and skill. So let's have a look at those two groups of paintings. And I'm not going to say a lot because I think they pretty much speak for themselves. And just to any one of those students, if it's your painting, I know I didn't ask your permission, but I appreciate your letting me use it. Thank you. You just realize how hard someone like this, how many years they spent to learn these kinds of skills. And each one of these painters is the same. Just an enormous, makes me think of someone like 2 weeks of homeschooling my 7-year-old. But the high degree of skill. And this is just 10 years away from fauvism, like the wild beasts. I mean, I think I would have become a wild beast if I'd had to paint like this. I mean, the skill is astonishing, but what is the reason? There's sort of like these bourgeois platitudes of, kind of caught in a bubble of some kind of mannered life of some point. It's so upright and moral and so dead. It's sort of astonishing. These were considered the great paintings of the world. And then we go to Fairfield Porter, who's painting, in the 60s. Just simple shapes. I mean, you can't really go beyond saying that these are just overlapping shapes moving back into space. And then Diebenkorn's Studio Sink, it's quite a big painting. It's like 60 by 50 or something. This one really strikes me as vision. Because you just get the sense that one day he comes to his sink every day. And then one day it's just like, oh my God. And he sees it. And of course, he's got the skills. There's nothing here that's like incredibly skillfully painted. That's pretty cool in there. But basically, he's just seen a big set of shapes that really engaged him. So this is the beginning of the student paintings from plein air workshops. And they would be done in the morning or the afternoon in 2-3 hours. And you can see that they're shapes on a good structure. They're not fancy. There's not a lot of fancy brushwork or a lot of fancy things going on. They're just nice crafting of shapes. And even in black and white, we can still see the depth of the image, the structure that's holding together. And there's a nice balance between the skill to pull it off and seeing something, kind of like a vision of that potential of something in the landscape that engages the whole picture plane and really makes it feel lively. And this one's, well, not even finished really, but just look at the very nice attention to detail in the actual shape, and then the overlapping of this in front of that, in front of that, in front of that, in front of that, and all the way back, giving us the sense of where things are in space without needing any detail or any frilly edges. When I wrote Mastering Composition, I said in the introduction, I could have called it Shapes, 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 because really our paintings are just a series of shapes on a two-dimensional surface. And it's our ability to put those shapes and engage them with the whole picture plane that really accounts for successful painting. And that's why I say that so much of painting is design-driven rather than subject-driven, because it's the engagement of the shapes and the design on the picture plane that is going to bring the success in the painting. This was an exercise in black, yellow, ochre, and white, working on color temperature, and then at the very end, they just put a hit of color there to kind of cement where they wanted us to go. So again, here you can see like big shapes, the little shapes, the sense of the overlap, where things sit in space, the structure that's holding it all together. So as always, I hope that was helpful and engaging. I just really wanted to bring home the point that, sometimes when we're wanting to become a better painter, there's just seems to be so far to go. When you look at other painters and they're doing things, you think, oh my God, I'll never do that. And you realize, well, you might not, but it also doesn't matter, because there is at a certain point, a set of skills that have to be in place. But then our own unique vision, our authentic vision, starts to have some role in that interplay between skills and vision. So I hope you sort of got a sense of that today. And next week, I'm going to be talking more about that, sort of how we craft that sense of skills so that we can consistently make great paintings. So I hope in your world, everybody's safe, sound, you're surviving okay in this whole thing. And I will see you next week. I hope you have a great week. I hope you get a chance to do some painting or drawing or writing or something. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye for now.